Welcome to the Brocade vIATA vRouter command line interface course. Please take a moment to read our legal disclaimer. After completing this course, you should be able to describe the local and network options for CLI access, invoke virtual consoles from a locally attached console, log on to the vRouter, use help, command completion, and command history, access operational and configuration modes, understand and explain the configuration file structure, execute configuration commands, commit and save configurations, and log off by exiting configuration and operational modes. We'll begin by accessing the CLI. If you've installed vRouter onto a dedicated system, sometimes called a bare metal installation, you have two local access options. The first option is to use a keyboard and monitor directly connected to the vRouter. The directly connected monitor and keyboard serve as the vRouter default console. Using the direct connection, you can open up to 6 simultaneous virtual console sessions. These multiple windows allow you to run different functions at the same time. For example, you can be changing the configuration in one window, checking the results of your changes in the second, running a packet capture in the third window, and so on. Let's look at an example of using the virtual console. In this example, we have just booted the vRouter, and we see here the end of the boot messages. Notice that the login message shows TTY1, indicating the default console. To open another virtual console, press and hold the Alt key plus any function key F2 through F6. F2 corresponds to Virtual Console 2, F3 to Virtual Console 3, and so on. We'll press Alt F3. We can now log in to TTY3. To return to TTY1, we press Alt F1. We can continue to use the Alt function key combinations to switch between sessions. The second local access option for bare metal is to use the serial console port. The serial console port uses a serial COM port of the hardware system. You can connect this port directly to a management PC running terminal emulation software using an RS-232 cable. You can also access this port remotely by connecting the vRouter to a terminal server. vRouter software comes pre-configured for serial port access. The port is set by default to 9600 bits per second, 8 data bits, 1 stop bit, and hardware flow control. Set your terminal emulation software accordingly. Since you have installed vIATA software to your own hardware, you may need to enable the serial port by modifying the BIOS of your device. Consult the documentation for your hardware for instructions on enabling the port and setting serial communication parameters. One key difference between a direct connection and the serial console is that the serial console does not support multiple virtual consoles. If you've installed your vRouter as a virtual machine, you can access the direct console depending on your hypervisor software. Most hypervisors have a console tab or similar means to directly access an installed virtual machine. Check your hypervisor manual for more details. For network-based access to the vRouter, you have 3 options. The first method is to use Secure Shell or SSH. SSH provides a secure, encrypted connection for both login and command activity. The vRouter supports multiple simultaneous SSH sessions. Because the connection is secure, vIATA recommends that you use SSH for remote CLI access. A second method of access is a telnet session. The end-user experience is similar to SSH, but telnet is not secure. It uses plain text to transport both username/password information and command activity. As with SSH, the vRouter supports multiple simultaneous telnet sessions. The third access method is to use HTTPS to access the vRouter GUI. Obviously, this is not CLI-based access, but we mention it here because it is another way to access the vRouter from the network. Because you are using HTTPS, your connection to the GUI is encrypted, so it provides the same security benefits that SSH does for the CLI. The web GUI also supports multiple simultaneous sessions. Note that network access requires you to configure an IP address on the device and enable the appropriate access service. Once you've accessed the CLI, it operates the same way regardless of access method. The vRouter CLI is similar to that of other major networking vendors, making it easy to learn for most network administrators. help is available to help with command syntax. Command abbreviation and completion avoids the need to type long words in commands. Command history makes it easy to recall, edit, and resubmit commands. and the configuration file is hierarchical for easier reading. We'll cover more on each of these features once we log in to the vRouter. Before we continue, let's take a break to answer some questions on the information you've just learned. These questions are designed to reinforce key learning points from the training, and we're not collecting any quiz scores. Now it's time to log into the vRouter and learn about the basic functions of the CLI. As we've seen previously, the system login prompt identifies the system as a vRouter and indicates the session name, T2I1 in this case. To log in, we need a username and a password. Your vRouter has one pre-configured account. The Viata account is the default administrator. This account has full read-write access to the system. The first time you use this account, you'll use the password Viata. You will then be prompted to reset the password to something other than Viata. The new password will automatically be saved. However, for security reasons, Brocade has a couple of recommendations regarding this account. You should create additional administrator accounts with read-write access and avoid using the default Viata account. Even better, delete the Viata account altogether. We explain how to do this in the Viata system configuration course. The format of the vRouter command prompt provides two important pieces of information. The name of the user logged into the session is displayed to the left of the @ symbol. The hostname is displayed to the right of the @ symbol. The default hostname for every device is Viata, and of course you can change this to suit your needs. We discuss how to do this change in the system configuration course. Question mark help is one of the most useful commands for many users. Typing a question mark at any point in the command will display the possible options for completing the command. If we type a question mark at the prompt, the vRouter displays all the available commands. Question mark help is also context sensitive, which allows you to build up a command one word at a time. Let's say we want to show the OSPF routes that are available in the system, but don't recall the exact command to use. Well, this is no problem. We can see here that show is a possible command, so we'll start with that. When we type show followed by question mark, we see all the options for the show command. Note that when the prompt returns, it includes the word we typed previously without the question mark. Since our goal is to display IP routes from OSPF, it looks like IP is the best available option. So we add IP followed by question mark to the command. The vRouter returns the list of possible options. Since we want to see routes, we enter route as our third word and then follow it with a question mark again. OSPF is now an option, so we type OSPF followed by the question mark. The system tells us that there are no more options, so we press Enter to see the command output. Command history is another great feature that helps speed up your work in the CLI. You can use the up arrow key to scroll back through the command history and the down arrow key to scroll forward. Command history is especially useful when fixing typos or when entering many similar commands. For example, here we'll misspell the word interfaces in the show interfaces command. To fix this mistake, we simply press the up arrow to recall the previous command, erase the misspelling, then enter the correct spelling and press Enter. If you don't particularly like to type, you can abbreviate commands. As long as the character string uniquely identifies a command, you don't have to type out the full words. If you enter a string that the system can't associate with a single command, the parser will tell you where the problem is and display the available options that match the string you entered. Note that only command keywords can be abbreviated. Names, such as list names, cannot, nor can you abbreviate addresses. Finally, the vRouter support team asks that you use unabbreviated commands when you submit trouble tickets or bug reports. Abbreviated commands make for easier usability of the vRouter, but are much harder to use when building a searchable database of bugs and trouble tickets. To see a complete command, type in a few characters, then press the Tab key to complete the command string. For example, instead of typing the full command show configuration, we can type shtab, conf tab. The system completes each command word. You still have to press enter to execute the command. Where the tab key can be useful is with those names and addresses that you cannot abbreviate. Let's say we want to look at the firewall settings on this device. We type out the command, then hit the question mark key to see the name of the firewall that's been configured on this device. The output returns the name untrusted. If we try to abbreviate untrusted, we're unable to do so. The system instead tries to find a firewall with the name U. We'll use command recall to recall the previous command, press the tab key, and then the system will complete the name for us. When we press enter now, we finally get the output that we were looking for. Now let's explore operational mode on the vRouter. Operational mode is one of two modes in the vRouter. As its name implies, operational mode is for entering commands that control the operation of the device or displaying the operational state of the device. Operational mode is identified by the $ symbol at the end of the prompt. Configuration mode is for making changes to the configuration of the vRouter. Configuration mode is identified by the pound or hash symbol at the end of the prompt. We'll get to configuration mode soon, but first let's explore operational mode. Operational mode is used to manage the general system functions of the vRouter. One major activity that is performed in operational mode is using the show command to display operational state information. The show command is used to show routes, show interface status, and more. Operational mode is also used to control system operations, such as rebooting the system, changing the date, and other functions. Many useful commands are available in operational mode to help with troubleshooting. These include clear for clearing statistics, show for showing status and statistics, ping for testing network connectivity, and traceroute for testing network reachability. Let's look at an example of a show command. If we wanted information on the software version running on the vRouter, we type in the command show version. This output includes important information such as the software version number and the boot source. If you're running Viata as a virtual machine, you'll see additional information about the virtual environment. This screenshot shows a capture from a virtual machine running on a VMware hypervisor. Another command you'll use frequently is the show configuration command. This command displays any settings to the configuration that are different than the system defaults. Because this output is longer than one screen, the vRouter automatically runs it through the Linux more command so that the output is displayed one screen at a time. You can tell that there's more output to come by the colon prompt at the bottom of the screen. To view the next page of output, press the space bar. When you reach the end of the output, the vRouter returns to the prompt. You can also navigate within multiple screen output. You already know about advancing one screen with the space bar. To view the next line of output, press the Enter key. To back up by one line, press the K key. To back up by one page, press the B key. And to quit and return to the prompt, press the Q key. If you add the All option to show configuration, the output includes both non-default and default values. Now let's take a moment to look more closely at the configuration file itself. Within a vRouter configuration file, there are two kinds of statements, nodes and attributes. Nodes are like containers. They contain attributes and other nodes surrounded by braces. For example, in the configuration at the right, the interfaces node is highlighted in blue. Often a node will contain more than one subnode of a given type. We call those multinodes. For example, in the configuration on the right, the OSPF configuration contains multiple area nodes. Attributes are used to set the values for discrete parameters within a node. For example, in our configuration on the right, the address for the Ethernet interface is an attribute of the interface node. If you're redeploying your vRouter, or if you're working in a lab environment, you may want to restore the device to the default unconfigured state. This is simple as long as you understand how the vRouter handles the configuration file. When a vRouter is first booted up, it creates a file called config.boot. The file contains the basic framework for the overall configuration, plus all the interfaces the device discovered during the boot up process, plus the default user account. When you save changes to the configuration, the changes overwrite the config.boot file. So to restore a vRouter to the defaults, first rename the existing config.boot file to something else using the Linux move command. The config.boot file is located in the directory /config. You might want to name it something that includes the date so you can remember why this file exists. Then, reboot the system. When the vRouter boots, it will look for an existing config.boot file. When it doesn't find one, remember you renamed it to something else. The system will generate a new config.boot file with the default settings. In addition to looking at configuration, you can use operational mode to display and save a wide range of operational and diagnostic output. One command you hopefully won't need is show tech support. The show tech support command is actually a script which runs many commands and collects all of the output into a single file. The information includes the current date and time, current software version, installed packages, configuration, process status, log messages, and more information. This makes it easy to collect all of the pertinent information about the device when you need to get help from technical support. The output for this command is quite long, and in any case, you will want to send this file to the support team. So you should save the output to a file by using the Save option. The name you type should be descriptive. The device takes about a minute to a minute and a half to write all the output to a file. The output from the Save command gives you the complete path and file name, so you can retrieve the file and send it to support. The device automatically includes the date and time in the file name. Now let's take a break to answer some review questions.